now is how do I add a dependency to my POM? Okay, I just tell from the beginning. So I have a POM.xml. I have a project ready with me. I have a POM.xml with me. Okay, so now I want to add some dependency to the POM.xml. Developers have worked in their file, okay, and they have written some code. They have replaced the system out print statement with a logger framework. The logger framework will be available with SLF4j. It's open source logging framework. So if this code needs to be compiled, the jar which contains these packages must be in the class path. Okay. So if you are using AND, you will download this jar file, put it in some folder, give it in the class path, and then compile this Java file. If you are using Maven, you need to know how does Maven download this artifact from internet, and you have to prepare the dependency, and you have to update pom.xml with the dependency so that Maven will go to the dependency you have given, and Maven will fetch the dependency, will put it in the class path, and then use it at the time of compilation. So the only thing that you need to do is identify this SLF4j dependency where you can get it, and you need to put the dependency node in your pom.xml, and you need to run your Maven compile. Okay, so let me now show you how do you search that. So when you want to search Maven repository, you will have lot of options. You can open mvnrepository.com. You just type here SLF4j, because this is the dependency. This is the dependency that you want to have. You just search Maven repository for this particular artifact. So arg.slf4j, you just choose this. Now you have multiple things here. We have a lot of so you can pick up anything related to your project. So I will pick up SLF4j log. So here I have a lot of versions. Let me pick up any of the version. Here you will see that I have a dependency given here. Maven dependency given here. So I will just take that Maven dependency and go to my pom.xml and put the dependency here. Now after I do that, let me go to my command prompt. If I say mvn compile, okay, before I put this, what will happen? First, that also we will check. Developer has added some code in his project and he tries to compile it. So it starts compilation. There is a build failure. What is that build failure? If you see it, it failed to execute the goal. Here it says package arg.slf4j does not exist. Okay, so clear, it is not able to compile it. with this default compilation option, it's not able to compile it. Now we need to add this dependency, and it is not able to compile it. You need to add this dependency. Okay. Now let me try compiling. So now you can see it is downloading the, clearly you can see SLF4J artifacts, it is downloading. Okay. Now it is compiling, build success. Now what you have understood is, if you want to add a new dependency, what you need to do is search for the dependency in the Maven repositories, identify the dependency node, put the dependency node in the POM.xml, and then if you compile, Maven will go to the dependency. Whenever it sees dependency node, it will go there, go to the repositories, identify, fetch the jar file with its group ID, artifact ID, version. You see now, if you open your M2 repository, it has also set up your SLF4J. It will also set up your, this is log4j. Okay, log4j in your local cache. Very conveniently it has set it up for you. So next time onwards, it actually need not go and fetch that thing. So it has downloaded things and downloaded and set it up for you. Set it up in the class path, and when you are compiling it, it will compile and it will ensure that the newly downloaded dependency will be available in the class path. We will understand about what is a Maven build profile. What do I need? What is meant by a profile, and why do I need it basically? A real example, real-time scenario is, see, for example, your application needs database access. You want to run some database scripts as part of your build process. Today, you may be running the build on dev server. So you may be using the username and password of your dev server database. Tomorrow you move into UAT environment, user acceptance environment, where multiple users will test your application. So there you need to give database username and password of the database configured in the UAT server. Or you have a centralized database server where you get multiple databases. So in dev server, you point to dev server, you point to the database configured for dev server. In UAT, you configure the database created for UAT server. In production, you may use the database which you configured for production server. The username, password, database name. If it is centralized database server, username and password may be same, but database name will change. Dev database may be different, UAT database may be different, production database may be different. So you need to use same POM.xml and use different DB combinations to build on different environments. You want same POM.xml to build with one set of DB scripts if this POM.xml is run on dev environment. If you want to generate a var file for UAT environment, you have to build it with UAT DT. If you want to generate a var file which you will deploy in production environment, you want to generate a var file with production server details. Okay, so you want to generate var file, you want to generate a build which is little bit different for different environments. Similarly, another example I'll take. you have one build server with you where Maven is installed. You have 1.4. You have legacy applications. Some applications from 2003, 2004. Some applications 2007, 8. Some applications 2010, 11. So you have applications from various years. You need to maintain and generate builds. So something is on 2004. It may not be compiling with 1.6. So it's compiled and built with 1.4 Java version. So you need to run some builds with 1.4 Java source, some builds with 1.5 Java source, some builds with 1.6 Java version, and some builds with 1.7 Java version. This is a real scenario which you will get. Or when you are generating WAR files, if it is on legacy server, you have to put 1.5 compatible Java file, 1.5 Java 1.5 compatible WAR file. If it is in some other server, you need to deploy 1.6 compatible WAR file. In some other server, you need to deploy 1.7 compatible WAR file. So summary is, you need to generate WAR files with multiple Java version compatibilities, which is a real scenario. If you are having applications from 1995, if you want to maintain them and still generate builds and deploy on these servers, you have this requirement to generate WAR files compatible with multiple Java versions. Okay, so what I want you to understand as part of this discussion is that you may be required to build a WAR file with a different settings for different environments. So that information about multiple environments can be maintained in a profile. So just repeating. So build profiles can be set per project. Build profiles can be set per user. Build profiles can be set globally. So let's come in reverse order. How to set global build profiles? In your Maven installation, you will find a conf folder, and there you will have settings.xml. So here in the settings.xml, you will have information about repository. What is your local repository? By default, it is .m2 in user. If you want to change it, you change it here. So what are the proxies? If you have proxy server or server authentication, I will come to this later. But what I want you to understand is, any global settings for all your Maven projects will be set in your Maven installation conf folder. There is a file called settings.xml. So that's how you set global things. If you want to set any configuration parameters per user, you copy this settings.xml from Maven, you come to your .m2 folder, so here you place the settings.xml, and if you modify settings.xml here, like with path or with server name, password, anything, so for your user, it will use the settings that you are setting here. So that is how you set, configuration values specific to a user. If you want to set any configuration values specific to a project, that you can set in your POM.xml. So how does Maven resolve your various properties means? Various settings means, first it will look in POM.xml. If not, it will check in your user profile. If not, it will go to global settings. That is the order of resolving the profile values. Okay, so summarizing, any values at the global level, like your repositories, public repository information, team repository information, all those things will be in the global settings, which will be placed in the Maven installation. If you want to make any changes specific to If you want to make changes specific to your user, like this is the place of my internal repo, like local cache. This is the authentication for my system. I want to do FTP to another system. These are the FTP details of my system. So if you want to give any your system specific changes, that you will give in the settings.xml, copied from the conf folder of the copied in the conf folder of the copied from the conf folder of your Maven installation, place it in your local system. If you want to have any project specific settings in this project, for dev environment, this is the database. For production environment, this is the database. So this is all about your project, and that will be in your POM.xml. Okay, now let's see some examples. Say you have some source structure like this. You know this structure, right? You will have source, you will have POM.xml. In this source, you will have main, you will have test, and you will have resources. Generally, you will have 3 folders under source: main, test, and resources. Main will have your source code, test will have your unit test, resources will have any property files. So here you will see environment production properties, environment.properties, environment test.properties. Okay. So you have multiple properties with environment. So now you want to ensure that if you run the Maven build with some value, it will use environment.properties. If you use with another token, it will use environment test.properties. So when you are building, you want to give a switch. In that switch, you want to tell which property file to be used. So how do you do that? First, how do you list that profile? See, in POM.xml, you will have a node called profiles. You'll have a node called profiles. This is under this you can have multiple profile nodes. So this is one profile node which you see here. I am naming this profile node as test. The ID of this profile is test. And here I am just writing one. See, in Maven you can call and tasks also, but we'll discuss it later. In Maven you can, by using a plugin called ant plugin, you can directly run ant tasks under Maven. So what I am doing is I am copying a file. Okay. So what I want to do, I have set up a profile, named it as test. So what I want to do in this profile is use this env.test.properties as env.properties. That is what I am doing. That's my profile. So now when I run Maven test or Maven compile or Maven package based upon when I want to run this, -p means profile and give the name of the ID. Then during that, in this particular Maven package or Maven test or Maven compile, it will use the profile value, the operations which you have set in this profile with ID test will be taken care of. Now if you can see the copying of the, here you can see, ant is executed and the copy of the test.properties is completed here. So what I want you to understand here is, in the profile element you can set up under the profiles node you can set up multiple profiles. Okay, and every profile will have an ID. In that ID you can do any configuration things. And if you run your Maven build cycle goals like Maven test, Maven compile, Maven package, if you pass the profile and ID of the profile, whatever configuration you want to do, whatever configuration you prepare under that profile, that will execute along with your regular goals. Maven compile will happen and whatever you have set under this profile will also be executed. Similarly, for production, you can say -p prod, whatever profile you set with ID prod will be executed along with the regular goal. Okay. Similarly, You can even activate your profiles by operating system. Suppose if your OS is matching to this, you can activate a profile. You can tell this is my profile test. I want this to be activated automatically. I don't want to run with -p test. I want an activation automatically. Means if the OS is Linux, I want this profile to run. If the OS is Windows, I want this profile to run. Okay. So you can activate your profiles via operating system, by environment variables. You can set up your own environment variable, and if the value is this, you can activate the profile based on environment value. If you set environment variable, suppose you put this POM.xml in one staging server. You set up one variable, environment type, and you give the value as staging. So you can say if the environment value is staging, then I want to run this profile. So it will check in that case environment variable value and it will run. So summary is you can run profiles by using -p followed by ID of the profile, or you can activate the profiles by environment variables by operating system. Automatically Maven detect these things and it will activate corresponding profile. So along with profile, along with the ID, you specify activation mechanism, so that Maven, based on your activation mechanism, it will automatically run the profile even if you don't call it explicitly.